Hey y'all, so we are starting back again with our Budgeting Basics series. Our Budgeting Basics series is where I am walking you through just the various components of learning to manage your money well. Of course, budgeting, saving money, and we're going to be talking specifically in this video about paying off debt. And if you are new here, I am Jessie Fearon. I share my family's real life on a budget with our successes and failures with money on my blog at jessiefearon.com and through my social media and here on YouTube. And I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3 kids. And obviously, since we're all kind of in this like weird COVID-19 quarantine, all 3 of my kids are home with me. So as you saw, the one is already jumping on the couch. The other 2 are in their room playing quietly. So knock on wood that they don't start going crazy. Oh, and I just knocked and now the dog is perked up. And so my family, we are 100% debt-free, which does include our home. And we did this all on my husband's income of $47,000 a year. In fact, even right now in 2020, he does not make much more than that. He only makes about $50,000 a year after taxes. And I share that with you because I want you to know and understand that it's totally possible for your family to pay off debt. And that's what I'm going to be walking you through today is how to pay off debt. So first, let's define debt because I know that there's a lot of different variations out there. There's good debt, bad debt. What kind of debt are we talking about here? I'm talking about all debt, y'all. Like, I don't think that there's a good or a bad debt. Like, I don't think a debt is like a moral being and it's either good or it's bad. It can't make that kind of decisions because debt is just intangible. It's not a real thing, right? So there's no such thing as good debt or bad debt. It's just debt. It's money you owe somebody or an institution. Period. That's what debt is. That's what debt is. So it doesn't matter if it's a car loan, student loans, a personal loan, a wedding loan, credit cards, a house, whatever. If you have debt, it's just debt. It's just something that you owe somebody else. That's all that it is. Plain and simple. Not good, not bad, just the ugly truth, right? So when it comes to paying off debt, there are 2 methods for paying off debt. There is the debt snowball method and the debt avalanche method. Neither one is right or wrong. They're just simply different methodologies and processes in order to pay off your debt. The debt snowball method is where you order your debts from the smallest balance debt to the largest one, and you start paying them off in that order. So you start paying them off from the smallest balance debt to the largest balance debt. The reason it's called the debt snowball method is because you basically are going to be throwing every extra penny you have at that smallest debt balance first. And then once you get that debt balance paid off, you're going to roll not only that extra money you've been throwing into that debt into the next smallest balance debt on your debt snowball list, but you're also going to take the minimum payment that you were once paying to that other debt and snowball that into the other smallest balance debt on your debt snowball list. And then you just keep on going from there. And so it's called the debt snowball method because you're basically building up this big snowball as you go down the list. The debt avalanche method works a little bit differently. You're going to order your debts from the largest interest amount to the lowest interest amount. So whatever your highest interest percentage is on your debts, that's the one that you're going to start with, and then you're going to go to the one that has the smallest interest amount on it. And so you're not even going to look at the balance or anything like that. You're just going to look at what the interest rate is. And whichever one has the largest one, that's the one that you're going to start with. And then you're going to avalanche down from there to the smallest one. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here. There's just whichever one makes more sense for you and for your family. My family, we follow the debt snowball method. Reason being is because it is a lot easier and a lot more motivating to pay off a smaller balanced debt first than to try to tackle a high interest balance debt. Because for most of us, our high interest balances are going to be larger balances. And so for us, it just made more sense to start off with the $450 credit card balance that was my credit card than it did to try to start with my $30,000 student loan bill. That one was our last one because it was our highest one. Of course, then we went into and pay off the mortgage. But as far as consumer debt went, our highest balance was my student loans, which were just over $30,000. Would you please get down? Thank you. And so for our family, that is what worked best for us. You can do this however you see fit, but I just encourage you to make a plan and to actually stick with it. And that's actually why more people have more success with the debt snowball method than the debt avalanche method, because even though you are saving money in the form of paying off your higher interest balances first before the smaller ones, you tend to lose motivation because, like I said, you could be working on the same debt balance for a very long time before you ever achieve being able to like cross that debt off the list. And it's very satisfying being able to cross off those debts as you pay them off. It is so satisfying. So here's what I recommend that you do tonight. I recommend that you sit down and you figure out exactly how much money you are spending in the form of minimum payments to your debts. For us, we were spending over thousands of dollars every single month just in the form of minimum payments, like just to pay back things that we already had, just to pay back money that we borrowed. I mean, I already had my degree. So now we were just paying back my degree. I already had the car sitting in my garage, but now I was just paying back being able to have that car sitting in my garage. The credit cards, I couldn't tell you what we all bought on them, but now we were having to pay back those things that we already had enjoyed, and maybe some of it we already gave away and donated, right? Or threw away. Maybe it was already something we threw away. And now we were having to pay back those bills. And so for us, it was very eye-opening to see how much money we were paying every single month in the form of minimum payments. Because the reality is that because for us, the biggest pay raise we ever gave ourselves was paying off debt. Because once you pay off debt, you get to keep that money. You're no longer having to pay it to somebody else or some other institution. It is now your money. And so once you see how much money every single month you could save just by paying off your debts and no longer having those obligations to all those minimum payments, I want you to dream big of what you could do with that money. Like, what would you do with that money? Could you actually finally save up for that emergency fund that you've been dreaming of? Could you take your family to Disney? I mean, granted, once they reopen, but could you do that? Could you finally afford a Disney family vacation without having to go into debt? Could you finally afford to save up money and buy that car in cash that you keep telling yourself it's impossible to do? It's not impossible. We've done it 3 times now. But that's what happens when you become debt free. You start thinking of things differently. I mean, our family, everything we have, we outright own. We own our cars. We own our camper. We own our boats. And yes, I said boats. My husband has 3 of them. 3 John boats. Oh, and a canoe. We do have that as well. The man loves his boats. But everything we have paid for in cash now. And it has been so life-changing, changing the way that we think about money. Because we've gone from seeing that the only way that we could ever have the life that we thought we really wanted was to go into debt. We thought that, you get married, you start having kids, you've got to have the really nice, fancy, super safe SUV mom-mobile, right? My 20-year-old Sequoia is just fine, right? I didn't need that newer, nicer, more luxurious Tahoe that I had. I didn't actually need that. I just needed a vehicle to get our family from A to B. It's really all that I needed. And by not having that Tahoe loan anymore, by not having any of those other debts, we have now been able to afford to pay for things that are fun things, like the camper, like the boats. We're able to afford those things without having to go into debt. When so many people think, the only way I would be able to have a boat, the only way I'd be able to have a camper is to go take out a loan for these things. That's the only way I could have those things is to take out a loan for it. And we tell ourselves it's no big deal, right? Because everybody does it. But the reality is that we then end up chaining ourselves and chaining our income to pay for these things. We end up robbing from ourselves. We end up robbing from ourselves and from our family by taking big portions of our income to pay back for things. And if you really look at that number that is coming out of your account every single month to pay for your minimum payments, you look at that number and you really, and you think to yourself like, wow, what would you do if you had that amount of money just waiting for you to do something with? That money wasn't going to anybody else. It was money that got to stay in your pocket. What would you do with it? Would you be able to save that money? Would you be able to save that money and be able to save it quickly enough that you could actually afford to go and buy that dirt bike that you want, or to be able to go and buy that camper that you want, or to be able to go buy that boat or buy that car, or whatever it is, whatever that thing is that you keep telling yourself that you would never be able to afford? Would you be able to actually afford it if you could save all of that money that you pay out every month in minimum payments? And the reality is that, yeah, you could afford it. The difference is that we have to change our perception about money and about debt and about all of that. Again, there's no good or bad debt. There's just simply debt. And I'm not going to tell you if you should or should not ever go back into debt, because that's totally up to you and to your family. But what I am going to tell you is that when we sink ourselves into debt, we rob from our future selves. And I don't want that for you. And I know that my family, I am so utterly grateful that we are free from that. We are free from those chains, because let me tell you right now, that was a very stressful time in mine and my husband's marriage, a very stressful time for our family. And I am so grateful that we are not there anymore, guys. I can't imagine having to go through the current COVID-19 quarantine and closure crisis if we were still strapped to all of that debt. Our family was put into such an amazing financial position because of the fact that we no longer had all of that debt, all of those minimum payments to do. And I want that for you guys. I want you to have those options, to have that clarity, and to have that peace of mind. Because the reality is that financial peace, financial independence, financial freedom, all of those things, what they really mean is options. It's not $1 million sitting in the bank. No, it's not. It's having the options available. It's having options available to you. It's being able to choose if or when COVID-19 comes back around. Because when you have options, you have the ability that if or when COVID-19 shows up again, if it does, you have the option of going to work or not. I've heard from so many people saying how much of a luxury it is to be able to choose if you want to go back to work once things reopen. Well, the reality is that it is a luxury, but it's a luxury that you can give to yourself. It's not a luxury that other people are going to give to you. It's a luxury that you get to give to yourself. And I want you to give yourself that luxury, because it is a luxury. It's an option. It's an option that comes with financial peace, financial freedom, and financial independence. I don't have $1 million in the bank, guys. And most people that have the option of not having to go back to work once things reopen don't have $1 million in the bank. But what they do have is financial freedom. They have, an emergency fund. They're not sinking under the weight of debt. And I want you to give yourself and your family that. I want you to give yourself those options, to have that freedom, to have that luxury of choosing if you want to go back to work when things reopen. I want you to have the option of being okay if things close down again and you can't go to work and you can't earn a paycheck. I want you to be okay. And in order to be okay, you've got to start taking those actions and those steps today. I can't make you do it. Your best friend can't make you do it. Your spouse can't make you do it. You're the only one that can make you do it. And so I want to encourage you to pay off the debt, to learn to manage your money well, to save up your money. Because once you start doing those things, you start achieving these little successes financially, you are going to reap so much in the way of rewards. There's just really no words to describe it, because being on this side of financial freedom is incredible. And I want everyone to be on this side with me. I do. I want everybody to be on this side, because we are your average Joes, guys. My husband owns his own construction company. It's a little small remodeling company. That's what he does for a living. He remodels people's homes for a living. I mean, I told you what my husband pays himself a year. It's not very much money, guys. But the reality is that a family of 5 plus a dog are able to survive and thrive off of that money. And it's not because we're some magicians or that our parents give us money. Our parents have never given us money, not even for our wedding, guys. That's why we had a $500 wedding 11 years ago. I say that because we've had to figure this out on our own, and we've done it on a small income. And so you can do it too. It's possible. So I want you to sit down today. I want you to make your budget. I want you to list out your debts. You can choose the debt snowball method, the debt avalanche method, whichever one works best for you. Doesn't matter. But make that list of your debts. Start attacking those debts one by one so you can start preparing your family for a much better and brighter future. I have a free debt-free workbook that is on my website. I'm including a link down below that you can download that PDF workbook that is meant to guide you through the various ways of being able to make a plan and attack your debt and pay it off, along with a budgeting template. A template to track your expenses, because that is super important. If you have never done that before, that is something that you absolutely need to do. I'm also going to include in the description of the video links to the other videos in this budgeting basics series, as well as how to save up an emergency fund, how to track your expenses, how to build a budget, and even sinking funds, because those things are fantastic. And so I hope that you will join my family on this side of financial freedom, guys. So come on, join our family and find financial peace. Find that your version of financial freedom. So join us on this side of the fence.